You name it, I've probably sold it. Most recently, I've been in software sales. A lot of the old sales techniques, I've even trained some of the old sales techniques. And that high pressure sales and the desperation that comes from sales reps, people smell that a mile away, right? But we do it and we keep doing it over and over again. I had the pressure coming down on me from sales executives and sales VPs that we had to hit a number. And so that pressure comes down on you as a sales rep, and you have to hit this number, you have to hit this number. So in terms of selling to clients, we stopped listening. We stopped listening and caring about what that person's needs are. And that really did not resonate with me. And it just didn't feel right. It didn't feel good to not listen and help the person with what they need.
How this works? It's very neutral.
What I think is great about what Jeremy does is it's not just the words on the paper, it's all about the cadence. It's all about the tone, and that is something that is so hard to learn. So to be able to see him and to hear the way he does it and practice that is just huge. But I also really love how he stresses to be detached from the sale. And we all want what we can't have, right? So as soon as you're detached from it and you're like, yeah, you can take it or leave it, it's here, but if you don't want it, that's okay. And people are like, wait, what? And I don't want to be pushy, and I don't want to be the used car salesman. No one does, and I don't want people to sell that way to me. The sales world has already transformed. We need to catch up with it. And this is just absolutely resonates with me. It just rings so true to me. This feels so honest, and it feels like what we're doing, it just makes sense. And when you think about the old way, you shake your head and just, it's like, why did we ever do it that way? 7-figure sales training is game changing.
All right, Kristen.
Hey, hi Nada, nice to see you there. Hey, if you're on here, I would love to know who I am talking to and who's watching. I'm so excited for this time together. I'm so excited to introduce you to Jeremy. So just type your name in the chat. Just let me know your name and where you're at. And Suzanne, nice to see you. Where are you from, Suzanne? If y'all could just say hi, let me know that you're there. And hi, Terry. Hi, Yasmin. Thanks for being here, everybody. Hello from San Diego, Doreen. It's at least nice there. See, oh, now it's coming in. Hi, Wendy. Hi, Carmen. Hi, Suzanne. Hi, Gandhi. Hi, Terry, Amy, Braylon, Carol. Nice to see all of you. Thank you so much for being here. Cam, Lynn, Carol, thank you, everybody. I'm really excited. I'm really excited for our time together. Ginny, I'm excited to learn from Jeremy. So Regina, Julia, Monica, Sylvia, Gandhi, welcome, welcome. Nice to see all of you there. Nice to see you. So I want to share just a quick story before I introduce our wonderful Jeremy. So like you, I'm really looking forward to learning these skills because I'm always a constant learner. I'm always wanting to know how I can improve my skill sets. And for me, there is not a lot of really great sales training and without being sleazy or slimy out in the business. And that's why I was so excited, because when I was introduced to Jeremy, and I'll tell you a little bit more about Jeremy, I'm just so excited because it's a heart-centered way of asking people a series of questions to get them to almost sell themselves on your product or your service. And so I'm really excited to hear this process. But I have to tell you, it comes at a perfect time. I have a Pilates instructor that I work with one-on-one, and on Monday she just returned from a trip, and her and her sister went in, they were on an Uber on their way to the airport, and they're talking, having a conversation, and she was noticing, my Pilates instructor, Jody, was noticing that her sister was like really anxious that day and things weren't going well. It's just one of those days, right? And the Uber instructor, who happened to be a woman, she turned around and she told my Pilates instructor sister, she said, "Your chakras are whacked." And then she went in to say, that she's a life coach and that you have control issues and that I'm a life coach and I can help you. And I was like, I literally just put my hands to my, and I was like, oh my God, that is so what not to do to try to get clients and grow a business, especially as a coach. So I'm excited because this is the exact opposite of what not to do. So let me just introduce you a little bit to Jeremy because I'm, like I said, I'm a student at heart and I'm grateful to be here to just learn from him. Jeremy is one of the highest paid salespeople in the entire world. He has consistently made over $2 million a year as an employee in just straight commission sales, like absolutely no salary, just commission sales. It's amazing. I used to be in sales and my salary was the biggest thing that I had. Bonuses were a bonus. And so to have, you know, a $2 million consistently as just plain commission, that's amazing. What's remarkable is that the system that he has personally developed doesn't have any sleazy, slimy, strong arm tactics, pressure. You know, it's not out of alignment. It's not out of integrity. It's not trying to get someone to do something that you know is bad for them, or, you know, that might be bad, that might with a good intention be bad for them, or that doesn't feel good to you as the perfect person offering your products or services. So it's selling with love. It's from the heart and it's caring for the other person, which is like right up my alley. And again, not pushing or prodding the person to do what you want them to, but what's really in the best interest of the person that you're speaking to. So he uses a system, a specific system of questions asked in a very specific order to allow the person to discover their own truth. I'm like, sign me up. Where can I learn? So it is my great honor, great pleasure to introduce all of you to Jeremy Miner. So welcome, Jeremy.
Hey, Christy, that was you're too nice. You know, I'm going to take all of what you said as a compliment because my kids always tell me I'm really boring. So thank you very much. Okay. So here, and I want to jump into the training, and I appreciate you, Christy. I've learned a lot about the people that you work with. A lot of them aspire to be coaches. They're in your great coaching program. I've heard a lot about you in the industry, in the coaching industry. I train, you know, here at 7th Level Communication, we train thousands of people in the coaching industry and any type of sales industry. So I want to get right into it because I'm all about results. So what we're going to go over today is 8 steps to effortlessly close more deals, more sales. And kind of like Christy said, do that without being the awkward, you know, pushy person that nobody likes. You guys all know what I mean by that. Christy just gave you an example, and that stuff happens all of the time. So here's what you're going to learn today. I can promise you one thing, okay? That in the next hour, as long as you just hone in and be present, you're going to be able to double your income by learning to be a far more persuasive person. And you're going to have a template to follow that's going to give you repeatable and predictable results. And I want you to think about that for a second. A step-by-step structure to follow that will give you repeatable and predictable results every time. So no guesswork, no uncertainty. You're going to learn how to communicate, how to persuade, how to sell like you never have before. So I want to welcome all of you that are just joining. We've got tons of people flying in here. Now, here's a suggestion I would make before we get started. You know, turn off your distractions, you know, shut down your Facebook, your Instagram. If you're single, you know, jump off the dating apps, is what I'm about to share with you, can well, quite literally change your entire financial future. Okay. And a lot of people ask me this, and I want to get this out of the way. A lot of people say, you know, Jeremy, I'm in XYZ industry, or I sell XYZ product, and it's just so unique and different. Will this work for what I sell? Okay. Or they might even say, hey, I'm not even a salesperson. Like, how will this help me? But here's the truth. We are all in sales now. Now, some of you might not have a sales job, but you're still out trying to persuade, you're trying to influence, and you're trying to convince others, especially if you're in the coaching field. And what I call this is non-sales selling, where you're not necessarily making a commission for a sale, but you're still trying to convince others. you're in the business of moving others. And I'll give you a few examples of this. If you're a business owner or an entrepreneur and you're trying to enroll others in following you for your vision for your company, well, you're trying to influence, persuade, and you're trying to move others. If you're a coach or an independent contractor who's trying to get more clients for your business, you're in the business of persuasion and moving others. If you're an employee trying to convince your boss to give you a pay raise or a promotion, you're trying to convince others. And likewise, if you're in the sales profession, coaching, what you sell doesn't matter. This system works for any product or service. So the train is really for anything that you sell. It doesn't matter what it is. Now, I will tell you, this is also great for single people who are looking for dates. How about married people who want to stay married? All right, that might be important. Parents who want to become better parents, and anyone who really wants to move up and get promoted in your organization. And here's what I'm going to do. If you're on here at the end, if you stay till the end of the training, I'm going to give you a free bonus that I talked with Christy about. And right after the Q&A, I'm going to give that to you. I'm going to give you my 2 top closing questions that I used when I was a salesperson that helped me make over $2.4 million a year in straight commission in my sales job. So if you want those questions, I want you to type that in the chat bar. So say, give me the questions, or say, yes, give me the questions. And I'm going to give you those questions here at the end. Here's the way you get it. First of all, I'm going to have you, so get on your cell phone real quick, text the word sell to this phone number, 330-882-7355. So 330-882-7355. Our system will automatically know if you were here at the end of the webinar, and then it will email them to you after the webinar is over. We got a yes, give me the questions. Give me the questions, Carol says.
Love it.
Okay, so let's keep going here. Who is this training not for? This is very important. This training, what I'm about to give you access to, is not for people who want to take these advanced persuasion skills and use them to manipulate people for your own good. Okay, if that's you, this webinar is definitely not for you. Okay, now this is also not for people who have massive egos, who think they know everything about persuasion and selling just because they might be making 6 figures a year. You see, I've taken 6 figures earners in anything, in coaching, selling, and taught them the skills to become high 6-figure earners, like $300,000 a year, $500,000 a year, $700,000 a year. Several of them have gone on to make over 7 figures a year, more money than they ever thought was possible, even if they thought they were doing good before. So if you want to make those levels of income, I can help you for sure. But if you'd rather stay at the same exact income you're at now, then obviously there would be nothing I could do to actually help you. So I want to preference this as well. This is going to be a 2-part webinar, and you're going to learn a revolutionary sales framework called NEPQ. And I want you to write that down. Write down NEPQ. That stands for Neuro-Emotional Persuasion Questioning. Neuro-Emotional Persuasion Questioning. I've been training NEPQ for the last 2 years, and it's resulted in tens of thousands of salespeople throughout the world, coaches, to make the jump to 6 figures, even up to 7 figures from this training. Now, I have a question for you, and Christy gave me permission to ask this for you. If I promise to give you great training, which I will, do I have your permission to take 10 minutes to give you a great offer for you to consider here at the end to help you? If that sounds fair, I want you to type yes in the chat. So just type yes, like, hey, give me the training. Okay, my screen's a little bit slow on my other computer, but I'm getting some yeses here, so I'll do that. So, and like I said, this is completely up to you. I won't even offer it to you unless I give you some great persuasion training that you can use in your career, and I'm only going to do it with your permission, okay? All right, so here, first of all, I want to go over this with you, because some people are like, wow, this guy is 7-figure earner. He must have been born out of his mother's womb with all these crazy persuasion skills. But here's the actual reality. I wasn't very good at sales or persuasion when I started, and I want you to understand that first. the real reality, I was quite terrible. Okay. And I got nonstop rejection and really horrific results when I got into my first sales job. And I will tell you this, I'm nothing special. Like I said, I wasn't born out of my mother's womb, a 7-figure salesperson. In fact, I'm going to tell you, I'm no different than any of you on here. I was born in Arkansas, for heck's sake. Like, no joke. My mom always tells me that, down in Arkansas, we're not the sharpest tools in the shed. It's true. And I grew up in a town. Okay, that trailer was not my house, but it wasn't far off from where I lived. And I grew up in a town actually as a kid in the middle of Missouri that had less than 800 people in it. But the only difference between you and me right now is I have access to different persuasion skills that you just haven't learned yet. Okay. But once you have the same persuasion skills, and once you learn the same knowledge that I have, and you master my new model of selling, I will tell you, there's nothing that will hold you back from, let's say, 10xing your sales ability, persuasion ability, and making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year with whatever you sell. And I really mean that when I say that to you. Okay. Now I have this question, and it's kind of a cheesy question, but how many of you on here want to start making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year with what you sell? Who wants to do that? Just type in yes. Who actually wants to make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year? Shauna says, wow, I lived in Arkansas for a couple of years. See, I'm getting cracks at because I live in Arkansas. All right.
Hey, Jeremy, could you repeat what that is NEPQ?
Yeah, NEPQ, and we'll go over it more as we go, but NEPQ stands for Neuro Emotional Persuasion Questioning. Neuro Emotional Persuasion Questioning. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of a story, and then we're going to jump into the training. I first got into my first sales job 15 years ago as a broke, burned out college student. And I actually got my first job selling home security systems, believe it or not, door to door. Company literally gave me a script, pretty much dropped us all off in a van in a neighborhood, if you can imagine that, and basically told us, hey, go make some sales, right? And that's what I had. And at that point, I really thought selling and persuasion was going to be easy because the people in the office that hired me said it was going to be easy. But little did I know, growing up in a ranch in the middle of Missouri, I was never taught, by my parents how to communicate and sell. So I started talking to my prospects about all the features and benefits of my product and how great it was and how much it was going to help them. But I started noticing that I was getting a lot of objections, like, we can't afford it. We don't need it. Your price is too high. I need to think about it. I need to talk it over to my spouse. Let me think it over. Can you call me back in a week, a month, a year later? Now, do you ever get some of those same objections as well? Probably so, right? A lot of you are saying, yeah, that's me. That's me. Of course, that's going to happen when we communicate that way. And I will tell you, it didn't matter how excited I was, because my manager said, you got to be excited about your product. You got to show enthusiasm, and they're just going to sign up. It seemed like the more excited I was, the more sales I actually lost. And at that point, probably after about 4, 5, 6 weeks later of hardly making any sales, and I was on straight commission, I really thought, maybe selling, maybe persuasion just wasn't for me. Have you ever felt that way yourself? But that was until, and this story, gives me chills remembering this. I was driving down the road with a friend, and he popped in a Tony Robbins CD. I'm assuming all of you know who Tony Robbins is, okay? And Tony said something like this, and I might be butchering what he said, but he said, most people fail for the simple reason they don't learn the right skills. Most people fail so they don't learn the right skills that are necessary to succeed. Now, notice he didn't say they don't learn skills. We all get taught skills, but he says we don't learn the right skills necessary to succeed. So when I heard that, a light bulb went off in my head that maybe, just maybe, what the company was training me and what I was learning from what I call the old sales gurus, maybe they just weren't the right skills. Maybe they were just outdated. Maybe the skills were outdated that I was learning because it never had occurred to me at that point that that could even be a possibility. So I really took that to heart. And I committed that I was going to learn the art of persuasion, of influence, that I was going to do whatever it took to provide a great lifestyle for my family. Because if you're like me, you also want to provide a great lifestyle for your family as well. But here was the dilemma. You see, I was being taught all these traditional persuasion and, pushy selling techniques from my company and all these, sales gurus. And I noticed that some of them would work and I would make some sales, even though I felt sick to my stomach. I would make some sales. But I also noticed a lot of the techniques that they were teaching me didn't work at all. And in fact, when I use them, I would actually lose sales because I was actually using them. And at the same time, I was going to college and I was actually majoring in behavioral science. Okay. If you guys are familiar with behavioral science is, I was specializing in neuroscience, which is the study of the brain and why and how human beings make decisions and how and why people are persuaded or not persuaded. Okay. And check this out. According to behavioral science, there are actually 3 forms of communication. And I would suggest that you write these down because once you understand the differences in persuasion and where you're at right now in your persuasion ability compared to where you could be, it will be life-changing for you. So write these down. So according to behavioral science, we are number 1, the least persuasive. So we're the least persuasive when we tell people things. Like the example that Christy just gave, the Uber driver said, "Oh, I'm a life coach. You really need this." And he told them what they should do. We're not very persuasive when we do that. We're not very persuasive when we try to dominate people or posture them or push them into doing something that we want them to do. That's why you always hear sales is a numbers game, because those techniques make it a numbers game. It's just like if you tell your spouse that they need to do something for you. What do they typically do? Well, they push back, right? And let me give you a few examples of the least persuasive way to sell. Presenting. We're all taught by every program in history that we have to make a great presentation, slides and bells and whistles. But according to behavioral science, it's not very persuasive. How about telling your story? We're all taught, hey, you've got to tell a great story about how this product or service changed your life. But I hate to tell you, nobody cares about your story. Who do they care about? Themselves and their own needs. They don't care about you. I hate to tell you that. What about giving a sales pitch? We've all been told we got to give a great pitch. But according to science, it's not a very persuasive way to sell. What about putting sales pressure on them? Do you do that? And here's the big one. Assuming the sale, according to science, is pretty low on the persuasion pole. Now, how many of you use these techniques or were taught to use them? I want you to type that in. Don't be embarrassed. Have you been taught those techniques or are you using those techniques today? Just say, yeah, that's me, or whatever you want to say. I want to get an image of this. All right, we've got a bunch of people in here say, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. All of them. Terry says all of them. Stephanie says yes. All right, 99% of salespeople are taught that way. Now, here's the second form of communication. We are more persuasive when we attempt to have a discussion. Now, that's known as consultative selling. It came out in the late 1980s with books like Spin Selling, which were revolutionary at that time. And that's where they taught you needed to ask logical questions to find out the needs of your client. But what's a potential downfall of only asking logical questions? When you ask your prospect logical questions and they give you logical-based answers in return, do people buy on logic or emotion? Well, studies show it's 100% emotion and they only justify it with logic. So once again, it's a lot more persuasive than the first mode of telling your story, putting sales pressure on them and assuming the sale, but you're still having to play the numbers game because very little emotion is brought out by simply asking logical-based questions. Now, the third mode of communication, and you might want to write this down. We are the most persuasive when we allow others to persuade themselves. Kind of what Christy talked about in the beginning. That's called dialogue when we ask what are called neuro-emotional persuasion questions that I referenced earlier. So how do you allow others to persuade themselves? That's the question. Do you just show up and say, hey, Mr. Jones, I'm going to give you permission to sell yourselves here? No, obviously, right. Persuade yourselves. And by the way, here's my account details to wire me the funds. No, you have to learn specific skilled questions, when and how to ask them in a step-by-step system or structure that will get your prospects to sell themselves rather than you trying to do it. So do this. I want you to put yourself in my shoes for a second. Imagine, put yourself in my shoes. You're learning these traditional selling techniques, but at the same time, you're learning from behavioral science that the most persuasive way to persuade and sell is to get others to persuade themselves. So it's the exact opposite of what the company and all the sales gurus were teaching me. What do you do at that point? Which path do you go down? Which path would you go down? I want you to type that in. Which path would you go down? Type it in the chat box. Would you just stick to the way you've always done it? Just stick to the sales techniques or persuasion techniques you've always used that have gotten you where you're at? Or do you step outside your comfort zone and learn the most persuasive way to sell? Which one would you do? Which path would you go down? Stay where you're at, keep selling the same way you've always done it that's gotten you the same exact results? Or do you step outside your comfort zone and learn the most persuasive way to sell? Renata says, new way. Mary Lou, NEPQ. Right, and we're going to cover that. We're going to discuss that. Now, as you might have guessed, obviously that's why I'm here. I stepped outside of my comfort zone so I could close more deals and make more money for my family. So I came up with some of these neuro-emotional persuasion questions in the beginning, but I didn't have it all down. I will tell you, and I'm going to show you a chart in a second, my sales more than doubled, okay? But I knew I didn't have all the right questions to ask yet. I didn't know really how and when to ask them because I didn't have a structure. I was still winging it because, I was losing sales that I knew I really should be making. I was winging it, no structure allowed. So I came up with this slightly evil plan. Okay, I know. Do you want to know what my plan was? Well, I'm just going to be very upfront with you. My plan was I was going to cheat. Okay, I don't like to work my brain into the ground. So what I was going to do, and this, remember, I was only like 22 at the time. I was going to go out, I was going to find a sales and persuasion training program because in my mind, I thought surely there would be one that had all of the elements of behavioral science with the magical phrases and questions that I would need to ask to get my prospects to persuade themselves in an easy step-by-step sequence. I thought surely a sales trainer has made this program. It has to be out there. But here was the problem. After I bought every sales training course on planet Earth, I'm not joking, I went to every sales training and persuasion conference. That's pretty much where I lived on the weekends. I was one of those conference junkies. I read hundreds of books on persuasion and selling. I spent tens of thousands of dollars on training. That dream course that I thought was out there, well, it didn't exist. So what do you do then? Talk about a letdown. I was really bummed because I knew that I didn't have it fully down. I felt like I maybe knew 10% of it. So I decided really right then and there that I was going to have to master this myself. I was going to incorporate everything I was learning from behavioral science and put it into the persuasion and sales world. And I would create this course myself if I had to do it. And wow, that sounds really inspiring, Jeremy, right? Not really. I'm going to tell you, it really sucked. I went through a lot of trial and error. I want you to imagine me doing this. I would carefully watch, or imagine yourself having to do this. I would carefully watch every prospect's reactions to my words. And I found that certain words would trigger sales resistance and trigger objections. So I had to eliminate those words and phrases that would do that. I would ask some questions that would work and some wouldn't. So I'd have to go back and I'd have to rephrase those questions. I'd have to put them in a different order in my sales process. And through trial and error, I created, Christy might have told you, a book of phrases and questions that skyrocketed my sales career. But more importantly, all of the salespeople and communicators that I was training. And I want you to look at this chart. Check out this trial and error chart. You'll see that here when I started learning this in 2000, 2001, that year, I made a little bit over $155,000. Not bad for a college kid. By 2004, I made over $327,000 and some change, selling the exact same thing. So I continued refining my skills, developing those questions. By 2006, that year, like you read, I made over $785,000 in straight commission in my job. $785,000 straight commission 1 year at my job. And then by 2008, I've got some echo that I'm hearing now, Christy. I apologize. When your video came back on, it started echoing.
Oh, well, I can take myself.
I still love you though. I apologize. Okay, so by 2008, as you can see from the chart, my persuasion abilities really took a quantum leap, and I made over $1.3 million that year at my job, and I kept learning. I still knew I was losing sales that I should be making. And by 2012, that was kind of the year I felt I really had mastered the science of getting people to persuade themselves. And my income, as you can see, went over 2.4 million that year in straight commission, kind of like Christy had talked about. Now, I'm going to show you my W-2 just to show you that. Here's the reason why I do that. A lot of you know there's a lot of people out there that make income claims online that are completely bullshiz, like totally bogus. I've caught people in the act before. So I wanted to share that with you. So as you can see, I made $2,370,000, $485, a little bit of change. Company gave me a nice bonus of about $115,000 that year as well. So a total of $2,485,583 some dollars I made just in that year alone, straight commission at my job. Now, here's what I'm going to promise you, the second promise. I can promise you that you're not going to start making $2.4 million a year in your coaching program or whatever you sell in the next 12 months. Okay, this is not the goal of Christy bringing me onto this training. And obviously, I think you're smart enough to understand that making that amount of income per year, it takes commitment, it takes hard work, and it really takes learning new persuasion skills to actually increase your income to get to that level. So remember, 2012 was the year the NEPQ was fully developed. Remember, stands for Neuro Emotional Persuasion Questioning. Now, some people might say, well, Jeremy, you made multiple seven figures a year in your industry, but that's just not possible in my industry with what I sell. Now, do you know that the average salesperson, do you know what the average salesperson in my 3 different industries I made over $2 million a year made? I want you to take a guess. I'm just going to give it to you. They made less than $41,000 a year. That was what the average person in my industry was making, $41,000 a year. I was making more than that every single week. And it wasn't because I had some magical leads. I just knew how to communicate the right way. So here's the deal. It took me 12 years of trial and error, ups and a lot of downs, before I fully mastered NEPQ, or the new model of selling is what it's called today. How would you like to get results now and learn from my mistakes instead of going through all of the trial and error like I had to do? How would you like to actually do that? Okay. Doesn't it seem like a long time to wait? I'm lazy, so to me it does. I had to do it the hard way, trial and error, but I'm going to let you cheat and actually do it the easy way. Now, I'm curious, how many of you on here would rather cut out all of the trial, the error, the ups and downs, the long freaking learning curve, and actually do it the easy way? Now, if you want it the easy way, hey, Sonia, I appreciate that. Thanks for being so transparent. I appreciate you saying that. If you want it the easy way, type in the chat box, easy way. Hey, Christy, you want to come back on here? I want to see if your video works.
I'm here.
Can you hear an echo? Perfect. All right. Yeah, you came on. I was echoing. I was like, what the heck? All right. So yeah, get me the easy way, Terry and Eva said. Okay. So you're going to get the shortcut on what works now, without spending years of studying behavioral science and persuasion and compiling, well, all the information like I had to do. Now, why is this so important to you now? Here's what I want to ask you. Why not keep communicating and selling the same way you always have? Why not just stick to that? Why not keep playing the numbers game, hoping that something you're going to say to your prospect is just going to make them want to magically buy from you? I wanted to read you something that Tony Robbins has actually said about this. Obviously, you guys know who he is. He said this: "You are now at a crossroads. This is your opportunity to make the most important decision you will ever make. Forget your past. Who are you now? Who have you decided you really are now? Don't think about who you have been. Who are you now? Who have you decided to become? Make the decision consciously, make it carefully, make it powerfully." Very important. So here's this question. What is the biggest problem in sales? And then we're going to get into the training here. What's the biggest problem in sales and persuasion? The biggest problem in sales is the problem you don't know you have. Let me repeat that. The biggest problem you have is the problem that you don't know you have. Because if you don't know what your problem is, then how on earth do you know how to fix it? But once you know what the problem is, then whose responsibility is it to change your situation and solve that problem? I want you to type that in the chat bar. Whose responsibility is it once you've learned what your problem is to change it? Is it your responsibility, or is it just somebody out there responsibility? Type that in the chat bar. Whose responsibility is it? All right, because me. Okay, of course, right? You guys all, a lot of you know that you're in personal development. So let me ask you this question. This is a trivia question. What year was the first sales model created for salespeople? I want you to type it in the chat bar. I love taking these guesses. What year was the first sales model created for salespeople? I want you to type that in the chat bar, what year you think that was. Tell me what year. This is always interesting when I do these trainings. What year? What year was the first sales model ever created for salespeople? Type that in the chat bar. All right. Amargris says 1959. Judy, 1950. Carol, 200 BC. I like that. Fran, 1955. Sharon, 19. Hey, I got a Wendy, 1811. That's a random guess. Okay. Drum roll. Did you know that it was created, some of you were close, in 1898 by a gentleman by the name of St. Elias Elmo Lewis? He actually sold circuses, and it was called the AIDA model of selling. Now that stands for attention. Got my phone working here. Attention, interest, desire. Important phone call over here. Got a telemarketer.
It's so popular.
Apparently. So it stands for attention, interest, desire, action. And here's the interesting part. Guess what sales model is used today by 99% of people selling anything? What do you guys think it is? Well, you're probably going to guess it right. It's the same AIDA model of selling all the way back from 1898. Now, who remembers this movie? If you've ever sold anything, you've always watched this, right? The Glenn Ross, I think it was from the early 90s, where he made that famous statement, you know, sit down, you don't get the pink leads, you know, coffees for closers, right? We've all heard that, coffees for closers.
Yeah.
Came out in the 90s. Here's a picture. Look at the board of I can't remember this actor's name. Who is this actor again? What's his name?
I just had it.
No, I just watched a movie with him the other day.
Baldwin, Alex Baldwin.
Yes, he's the guy that plays the President Trump on Saturday Night Live, I think. A little bit older version. Look at what he said on the board. Attention, interest, desire, action on the chalkboard. AIDA, right? So here's what I'm going to do. Let's take a look at the old model of selling, or the AIDA model of selling, because, you know, maybe you should just keep using it. You know, maybe you keep selling the same way. So here's the question. Does the consumer of our time buy the same way, think the same way, have the same buying behaviors as consumers did in 1898 when the old model of selling was created? This is an actual picture of 1898, the same year that the old sales model was created. I love the hats on the guys and the girls here. And the funny thing is I don't see any of these people on their phones scrolling through their newsfeed on Facebook. I see horses and carriages, okay? So what about, do consumers have the same buying behaviors as they did in the 1950s? Or let's say the 1980s?
Oh, no.
I know, right? How about the 90s? I was just graduating high school in the late 90s. What about even 10 years ago before social media really took off?
Oh,
any of you still have a MySpace profile? Okay. Now, all joking aside, this is a serious question. Why has the consumer changed? It's very simple. I want you to think about it. 20 plus years ago, what was the bridge between the company and the consumer? What was that bridge? It was, of course, the salesperson. The company would send out a salesperson to educate the public about their products and services. And besides radio, TV, maybe newspapers, maybe direct mail, that was the primary way the consumer learned about a company's products. But now, with the power of technology, the ease of the internet, and especially social media, we live in a completely different world, completely different era. You see, I hate to tell you this, but the consumer knows all about your company. They know all about your products, your services, your pricing, who your competitors are, how long you've been in business. They know everything about you by simply doing a Google search on their computer, heck, even their phone now. And I want to give you an example of this. Let's say that you sell even used cars. And imagine yourself being a car shopper. Imagine what you do. In the United States today, a prospective customer of, let's say, a Toyota Camry here, can arm themselves with all manner of information before they ever go on to a dealership to even look. She can go on the internet. She can find other dealerships offering the same car within a certain radius of her home, which gives her a wider variety of choices. Here you can see this on cars.com. They have 395 2017 Toyota Camrys just in the color black. You can also see the rating of each dealer as well as try to get the best price. She can visit online forums to see what current Camry owners feel about their car. But if she gets any dirty dealing or ends up upset at the salesperson, she can do a lot more than simply gripe to her best friend. Well, she can tell a few thousand of her Facebook friends or her Twitter followers, some of whom will share their posts with their social media friends, completely undermining the seller's ability to sell. Now, I want you to extend the realities of the market for used cars to pretty much anything that's ever sold. Think about that for a second. So this is what you're going up against every single call you make, every single prospect that you talk to, every single week, every single day. And because of this newfound power, the consumer, this is important, will no longer be manipulated or pressured by pushy salespeople because they know they have many choices to choose the exact product, service, coaching program, or anything that a person sells. I do have some good news for you, though. I don't want to be a negative Nancy. If you've been struggling to make deals, to close people, to close sales in whatever you do, coaching or whatever you sell, it's not your fault. You have just been taught old, outdated persuasion and sales techniques from the stone ages of selling. These techniques, like you're starting to understand, were developed over 100 years ago that on most people very rarely work. So I don't blame you if you've been struggling. I was once in your shoes and it was really, really rough not making very much money. So I'm going to do this. Let's take an actual look at the old model, and then I'm going to show you the new model, and I'm going to give you specific examples of how you can use NEPQ when you're out there trying to persuade. So as you can see here from this graph, you're going to notice that in the old model, trust was only about 10%. Okay? You were taught that you needed to talk to the person about the weather or who won the game this week, or maybe you'd see a picture in their house or, or in their office about them fishing, and you would talk about how you like to fish, or you'd see the daughter's wedding photo and talk about how your daughter just got married, right? You're supposed to build that trust, find common beliefs. Well, it's basically a bunch of BS that really has nothing to do with why you're talking to them. And do you pick up when a person is trying to sell you something and do that to you as well? Probably, right? Now, after the next 10%, it's about identifying needs. The person, we're taught how to ask a few generic questions such as this one. Amy, can you tell me 2 to 3 problems that you're experiencing now and what you'd like to see happen to fix those problems? Christy's lap, right? That's a standard coaching question or any type of question salespeople are taught how to ask. Then the prospect would rattle off a few generic problems to the salesperson with simple, logical answers that are just the surface of what's really going on. And then the salesperson goes into their pitch or their presentation, right? And that's 50% of the old model, talking about all the great and wonderful features and benefits of their program or their products or services and how great their company is. And they've got the best this and the best that and the best customer support and the best training, which, by the way, every person says they have the best at what they sell. Have you ever heard a salesperson say that, oh yeah, my products are about 5th or 6th best in the marketplace, right? Okay. So then the last 30% of the sale, they go in for that hard close. And then what happens? I want you to type in the chat what happens typically. Well, some of you are typing this out. The prospect usually does what? They throw out objections or concerns. And then the sales, your price is too high. I need to think it over. I need to talk to my spouse. I'm looking at a different program. Then the salesperson has to try and overcome their objections and try to close them again and again and again. And then what happens? The person then starts have to chase them. They have to chase them down and email them and call them over and over and try to convince them to buy in. Does that sound familiar to you? Okay. So in the traditional model, sales model, it's all about getting the sale at the expense of the human relationship with your potential customer. It's you against the customer mentality, like you're taught you've got to go to war every day against your prospects, trying to manipulate them and win them over to make the sale. And the primary model focuses on what? Well, it focuses on you. You're presenting, closing, objection handling, and it puts the emphasis on who? Well, it puts it on you and only your agenda of trying to make the sale. Now, I have to ask you this kind of crazy, you're going to think this question I'm about to ask you is just completely retarded and crazy. Who do you think the customer cares about the most? Do you think they care about you and your agenda of trying to sign them up or join your program or making a sale? Or do you think they care maybe more about themselves and their own needs and what they're looking for? Okay, think about it. Do you like being pushed into buying something or talk to someone whose only agenda is to get what they want? What do you do when that typically happens? You do one of 2 things. And I want you to write this down. See if you do this. You get defensive, you throw out objections, and you turn them down. Who on here does that? Raise your, type in, yes, that's me. Or if you're more of a really nice person who doesn't like to make people upset, you withdraw from them. Oh, that sounds great. Send me some information. I'll call you back. That sounds good. I just need to think about it and I'm going to sign up. And then they go into witness protection program and they don't return your phone calls. They don't return your text and they don't return your emails. Now, have you ever considered that your prospects are doing the exact same thing to you because of how you were taught how to communicate to them? Now, who on here would like to change that so you can do more deals, sign up more people, sell more of your product or service, and stop playing the deadly numbers game so that you can make more money and provide a great lifestyle for you and your family? If that's you, I want you to type, make a change. Or just, yes, that's me. Just type in, yes, that's me. I want to do this. I want to make more money. I want to sell more. Suzanne, me, Joe, yes, please. Gandhi. All right, good. Now, what are the results of all these old school selling techniques? I'm all about results. Okay, I don't care about hype. I'm just what actually works. What's the proof? There's a ton of sales training out there from what I call the old sales gurus. So what are the results that you and other people are getting from learning the old model of selling? Well, according to recent stats from payscale.com, as of November of this past little year, the average salesperson in North America, and it's pretty much the same around the world, makes $42,670.51 a year. Now, did you get into sales or coaching or whatever you sell so you can only average $42,000 a year? Okay, so how do we do this, Jeremy? How do you go from where you're at now with what you sell to doubling, tripling, or more of that income? Let's take a look at any PQ. Let's take a look at the new model of selling. And then I'm going to give you a few of these questions that you can use today. So have your pen and paper ready so you can see how your prospects are going to start to open up to you and start to buy from you. And finally, I'm going to give you an opportunity to learn and invest in all of any PQ and know what questions to ask in every single situation that you're in, when to ask those questions, really how to ask them so you can enroll more people in your business, close more sales with whatever you sell, and be able to do that in a lot less time and start providing for the lifestyle that you want for you and your family, and be able to do that now, not months or years down the road. Who wants to wait months or years to increase your income? Now, by the raise of hands, who might be interested in selling far more, enrolling more people that you are now, and actually feeling good about it, feeling comfortable about it when you're communicating with your potential customers? Who wants to learn that? Who wants to sell far more, enroll more people than you are now, but actually feel good about it, feel comfortable when you're communicating? Judy, that's me. Mary Lou, that's me. All right, good. Okay, so let's take a look at how you change your results and stop losing so many deals that you really should be making. Now, in our time, the sale is not made at the end with outdated closing techniques and traditional manipulative objection handling techniques. It's made what's called, I call it the engagement process, as you can see here from the chart. Now notice 85% of the sale now is in the engagement process. It's where both you and your potential customer are discovering what their problems are, what's caused their problem, and how it's affecting them to see if your solution is going to help them. And it's just like in romance. The term engagement refers to a period of getting to know the other person before you marry them. The same is true in selling and persuasion. And the engagement process is where your potential customer is persuading themselves, but they can only do it from your very skilled questions. And according to behavioral science, remember, it's actually 5 times more persuasive if they, the customer, tell themselves rather than you telling them what they should do. And my slides are going a little bit slow today. I apologize, guys. So 5 times more persuasive if the customer tells themselves rather than you telling them that they should do it. Okay. Now I want you to imagine making 5 times more deals than you are now. Imagine making 5 times more sales. Imagine making 5 times as many people per month enrolling into your program, or even doubling or tripling what you do now. What would that do for you financially? Type that in the chat. What would that do for you financially, even to double or triple the amount of sales you're making or the amount of people you're enrolling in your program? What would that actually do for you? Okay, yeah. Big time financial results. That's what that would do for you. Yeah, me. Okay. All right, so here's a sales structure that you're going to need to know if you want to dramatically increase the deals you're making, the people you're enrolling, or the sales. Melanie says freedom. It would give me freedom. Here's that sales structure. Step number 1, you might want to write these down. Step number 1 is connecting questions. Write that down, okay? Now, these questions take the focus off of you and puts the focus on your potential customer. Now, step number 2, write this down, is situation questions. These find out what their present situation actually is. Step number 3, these are problem awareness questions. What problems do they have, if any? What's caused their problems? And most importantly, how those problems are affecting them. Step number 4, these are called solution awareness questions. Like I said, write these down, solution awareness questions. These questions involve your prospect in their ideas, which causes them to emotionally attach themselves to solving their problem and actually doing that with you. Step number 5, these are called consequence questions, okay? Helps them question their way of thinking and explores the consequences, the what ifs, if they don't do anything, if they don't change their situation, what's going to happen, the consequence of that. Step number 6, these are qualifying questions. They confirm how important it is for them to change their situation, how important it is for them to change. And then finally, step number 7 is transition questions. And these help you naturally transition into how your solution or your program or your product is going to help them solve their problems. You see, these questions will give you the correct benefits of your solution to bring up to them when you present. Now notice, if you remember the slide I gave a couple slides ago, only 10% of NEPQ or the new model is you having to persuade. Because all you're simply going to do is take the answers that they told you from your skilled NEPQ questions, and you're going to match the correct features and benefits to those. Now, what do most coaches do? What do most salespeople do? Well, they just ask a few logical-based questions, and then they go into sales pitch mode. That's what they do. So it's like taking, I'm at seminars training, it's like taking a bucket of mud and throwing it up against the wall, hoping and praying that something you're going to say is just going to trigger their prospects to magically buy from them. And I call that hopium. It is a drug that most coaches and salespeople on planet Earth take every day, where they hope and pray something you say is just going to trigger them to want to join your program or buy from you, right? But here's the deal. Once you learn these questions, you never have to play I hope they buy from me game anymore. You're going to get off the drugs. Why? Because from your NEPQ questions that you've asked them, you're already going to know what mud to throw on the wall. How do you know that? Because they already told you from the questions you asked. Now, step number 8, these are called committing questions. Write these down as well. Here's what's insane about NEPQ. Only 5% of the new model is you needing to close. No more manipulative, assumptive closing techniques or option closes that everybody's been using for 135 years. You're just going to ask a few closing questions, what I call committing questions, which helps them commit and take the next logical step to purchase what you're offering, but do it now, not later. Increases the urgency for them to buy. So all this stress, the anxiety, the frustration that you might be feeling now, completely eliminated, completely wiped away forever. Why? Because it's a natural process. Your prospect doesn't feel any sales pressure from you whatsoever. Let me ask you, how easy would it be for you to enroll people in your program, sell your products or services, if your prospects didn't feel any sales pressure from you because your questions you asked caused them to persuade themselves? How much easier would it be? A lot less stressful. So you see, NEPQ is a way of communicating, a way of persuasion that will completely change the way your potential customers view you. How do most people view coaches or salespeople? Right? You know what I mean.
There's the Uber driver.
That's the Uber driver. Exactly right. They view you as just another coach, just another salesperson trying to stuff your solution down their throat. So you're going to go from that negative view to being viewed as the trusted authority, the advisor, the expert who's going to help them solve their problems and completely change your situation. Now, which way do you want to be viewed? Okay, so let's get to the good stuff. This is my favorite part here. I'm going to give you a step-by-step process and some questions that you can start using today. Get your pen and paper handy. So I'm going to break these down. Now, are you ready to learn some of these persuasion secrets? Finally, they're like, yes, Jeremy, just get to the point. All right, step number 1, like I said, connecting questions. Let's talk about these. Your results from using connecting questions will be predictable and certain every time, in the same way that if you drop a pin, it predictably drops as a result of gravity. You know what's going to happen. No more guessing. So I'm going to give you 3 very powerful connecting questions here in just a minute that you can use right at the start of any conversation, especially if you're calling leads, that will immediately draw your prospect to you like a magnet. They work like magic every single time. And guys, I will tell you, one of the industries that I made over $2.5 million a year in was selling high-end coaching for a company. I wasn't selling my own product. I was selling coaching services that cost up to $100,000 for a company. These are the same connecting questions I used for that company. Now, here's the cost of not asking connecting questions. When you start out a call with a traditional selling phrase such as, "Hi, my name is X. I'm with XYZ company, and what we do is," what immediately goes through most people's mind? Salesperson, right? Trying to sell me something. So it triggers what's called sales resistance in the first 10 seconds from your prospect. Why is that? Because doesn't every single salesperson say the exact same thing when they're making a sales call or trying to recruit you? 100%. Now, let's look at first, I'm going to give you an example of this way. This is kind of crazy story. So I'm going to give you an outdated AIDA model script here. And I actually got this script from a friend. She is a life coach in a major life coaching firm. Okay. You cannot make this stuff up on how bad these scripts are. I like literally when I read this, I'm like, no wonder you're struggling trying to sell those services. You're making 30 grand a year. Well, it's because these scripts are given to you. Oh, maybe you want to throw up. Okay, so let me give you some examples here, okay? So let's say that you're calling leads, you're selling coaching or whatever you sell. I'm just going to plug in an example here, and you would use this for anything, any product or service that you sell. So I'm going to role play with myself here, okay? Salesperson says, yeah, hi, is Annie there? Hey, Annie, this is John Smith with XYZ Coaching Company. How are you doing today? Okay, great. Hey, do you have 2 minutes that you can talk to me right now? Prospect says, no, I really don't. Salesperson, okay, well, I saw you responded to one of our ads yesterday about getting a coach to help you close more deals in business. And I've been asked to personally call you to show you how we can help you get more deals in your business. Now, when works best for you to call me back? Should I call you back later today or should I call you back tomorrow? Does any of that sound familiar? Prospect says rather reluctantly, yeah, sure. Why don't you give me a call tomorrow? We usually say that to try to get rid of them, right? Salesperson says this. Okay, well, great. Well, let me ask you a question real quick. What's 2 problems you're having right now that's costing you deals and costing you money? Prospect, well, you know, I'm doing really good in my business right now. What's this all about anyways? Salesperson, well, you know, I'm calling you because with our coaching services, we can help you close more deals and really get your business going. In fact, we've been rated the #1 coaching service in the country 3 years in a row by our clients, and keeps talking. Notice the salesperson does what? Goes into their sales pitch mode, talking about how great their services are before first establishing if the person even has a problem. Now, prospect usually cuts them off when they are talking, right? And they might say, well, yeah, hey, you know, I'm busy right now. Just call back tomorrow. Salesperson, okay, well, let me ask you again, though. What are 2 problems that you're having right now? This was literally on their script, Christy. This was that bad. God. Okay, let me ask you again. What are 2 problems that you're having right now that's costing you deals and money that if I could fix for you right now, that you would take me more serious, Mr. Jones, and spend a few minutes with me? Literally, that's what's on their script. Salesperson keeps pushing the prospect now to tell them 2 problems. Sales pressure is building now. Can you see how that happens? Okay. It's all because of the way the salesperson's communicating. Prospect then, and this is a prospect who responded to an ad looking for coaching. Okay. Prospect, look, buddy, I don't really have that many problems. Salesperson says, well, then why did you respond to my ad? I mean, we've got a solution that's going to help you follow up with your prospects and get your company so many deals that you could triple your sales this next month. When can you give me just 10 minutes where I could show you how this is going to work for you and your company? Prospect rather reluctantly says this just to get rid of them here on this next slide. Yeah, you know, why don't you call me back, let's say Friday at 1 o'clock. Salesperson gets excited. Okay, that's great. Christy, I'll call you back next Friday at 1. Waits till Friday at 1. so excited. He's got this great presentation. Phone rings, it rings, it rings,
And it rings.
and it rings. And then the voicemail comes on. Oh my gosh, where's the prospect? I thought they were waiting for me. And we leave a message, and magically the prospect never calls them back, right? Does that ever happen to you? Well, if it does, now you know why it's happening. But here's the good thing. You're going to have the opportunity to change all of this if that's what you want. So I'm going to give you some examples here. Get your pen. Let's look at 3 NEPQ connecting questions in the exact same situation. And I want you to take a look on how the salesperson or the coach who uses NEPQ would start off the exact same call. And I want you to notice the dramatic difference in the tonality and the flow of this. Okay, so I'm going to role play with myself. Yeah, hi, John. This is, well, I better play a guy here since I'm a guy. Hey, Amber, this is John. I'm with XYZ Coaching Company, and it looks like you responded to an ad yesterday. You would have saw like a logo up there, like a number 7, about possibly having a coaching system to help you in your business. And I should probably start off by asking you, have you found what you're looking for, or are you still looking for a coaching system to possibly help you? Okay, now let's keep going with that. Let's look at this question. Look at the first connecting question here. I should probably start off, now look at my tonality. Listen, I should probably start off by asking you, have you found what you're looking for, or are you still looking? You always want to ask this because if they've already found one, you want to know that up front. Now, 99% of the time, they're going to say, no, I'm still looking because I just responded to an ad. Okay. Now, notice I said I should probably start by asking you, have you found what you're looking for? Or are you still looking? What does that do in most people's minds? It makes them feel like I'm open for them to maybe have already found a solution. I'm not trying to push them. I'm simply calling to see if I can help, not to sell them, but to see if I can help them solve problems, which when I do, they obviously buy. Prospect says, yeah, we're still looking for one. Salesperson says, okay, well, I was just curious, when you saw the ad, I guess, what was it about the ad that attracted your attention? Okay, that's your second connecting question. Let's take a look at that. When you say, I was just curious, what was it about the ad that attracted your attention? Why would you want to ask the second connecting question? Well, if you're calling leads from a lead list or a broker or an ad, you want to remind them of the ad they even saw. They might have responded to 10 other ads, right? So it reminds them of why they responded, but they're also telling you why they responded. But more importantly, who are they also telling? They're telling themselves, right, Christy? They're telling themselves, which is the first part of them persuading themselves. Prospect might say something like this. Well, we like the part on your website where your company mentioned this and that. And then the salesperson or the coach might ask this. Okay, was there anything else that attracted you? Not really. I guess I was just more curious about what you guys do. I've never had a life coach before, so I was just more curious about it than anything else. Now, let's take a look at this third connecting question. A lot of times you want to ask this question and you'd be surprised of how many people will actually tell you more here. Now, let me set this apart. You only need to ask the third connecting question if they don't expand on why they responded to the ad. So if you ask the second question, what was it about the ad that attracted your attention? And they say, well, we like this, we like this, we like this, then you don't need to ask the third question. But if you ask that same question and they said, well, I'm looking for a possible coach, and they don't elaborate anymore, then it would be appropriate to ask the third connecting question. So make sure you take a mental note of that. Now, let's talk about step 2 real quick. These are called situation questions, okay? Situation questions help you find out what their present situation actually is. And you're typically only going to ask about 3 or 4 of these questions in the very opening. Now, the consequence of not asking situation questions is you never really understand what's going on in the world. You don't understand their history. You just assume you know because other prospects you've talked to in the past have told you certain things, and you think everyone's situation is the same. And so because you never ask these questions, you end up losing sales that you could be making, Okay. So step number 2, I'm going to give you a few examples. Now, once again, these questions work for any industry, any product or service that you sell. So let's pretend you sold coaching services. Your first situation question would be very simple, depending on what you sold. Let's say you sold business coaching. We train a lot of business coaching, life coaching, just a whole bunch of different coaching programs. So let's say you sold business consulting or coaching. So your question would be, so Amy, what type of business do you have now? That would be your first situation question. You're finding out what their present situation is. Let's say if you sold financial services. So John, can I ask you what type of investments you're currently doing? Let's say if you sold insurance. So Alex, can I ask what type of coverage you have now for you and your family? That would be your first situation question. Let's say if you sold cars. So Jane, can I ask what vehicles you drive now? That would be your first situation question. If you sold network marketing or affiliate marketing. So Bill, what do you do for a living now? What do you do for work? Okay, you're just finding out what their present situation is. Very basic questions. Now, gave you a few of those. There's tons more that you'll need to learn. Step 3, let's go over problem awareness questions now. Okay, so problem awareness questions, right after you ask a few situation questions, you're going to ask problem awareness. These questions help you open the emotional door to your prospect. Now, once again, do people buy on logic or emotion? Remember, according to behavioral science, they buy 100% on emotion and only just about logic. So with these questions, you're finding out what their problems are, what's caused, more importantly, how it's affecting them. But more importantly than you finding out what their problems are, who's also finding out what their problems are? They, of course, are. And these questions help bring the person's problems that you're talking to from their subconscious mind to their conscious mind, which builds urgency for them to want to change their situation. That means buy now and not do it later. Okay. Now, here's the consequence of not asking these questions. Problem awareness. You don't ask problem awareness questions. You don't bring out the prospect's emotions. So they don't feel any need to make a change. That's why if you get objections like this, I need to think it over. Your price is too high. We don't need this. Can you call me back in a week, a month, a year later? It's because you haven't learned how to ask problem awareness questions. So let me give you a few examples. Okay. And let's say you sold medical device sales. I'm just going to give you different examples all over the place. So you might ask, Dr. Jones, do you like the surgical technique you're using now? Or do you like the current implant system your company is using? Let's say if you sold life insurance. John, do you like the policy you have now with XYZ company? Let's say if you sold fundraising services. So Sally, do you like what you're doing for fundraising now? Let's say you sold credit card or merchant processing services. So do you like the processing you have now in place? Let's say if you sold, let me give you an example for a different type of coaching. Let's say that you sold a diet or diet coaching or weight coaching. You could ask something like this. So Sally, do you like the diets that you've been using? That would be your first problem awareness question. Okay. Now, step number 4, solution awareness questions. I'm going to give you some examples. These help your prospect, okay, and find out their ideas of what they've done in the past to solve their problem. So they start to own the problem emotionally rather than you owning the problem yourself emotionally, okay? And these questions help them look at their present situation and future, what it will look like once they take action, once they enroll with you, once they change their situation, and they do that with you. That means purchasing what you're offering. Now, without learning how to ask solution awareness questions, you end up owning their problems and chasing them rather than them owning their problems and chasing you to buy. So these questions help you build urgency in their mind to buy now. And without asking them, you end up making your sales cycle a lot longer, which of course does what? Well, it reduces your chance of enrolling them or actually making a sale. Now, let me give you an example of a solution awareness question. Whatever you sell, you would just plug this in. So, John, before we started talking today, were you out there looking for, and then you plug in what they told you they wanted? Okay. So let's say if you sold, again, let's say diet or weight loss coaching. We train a lot of people in that field too. So Amy, before you started talking with me, were you out there looking for different ways or different diets you could lose some of the weight that you wanted to lose? That would be a solution awareness question to find out what they've done in the past. Now, part 2 coming up. I wanted to give a break here. This is where we're going to go over steps 5, 6, 7, and 8, and most importantly, how to wrap up your deals, how to close them. And you're not going to want to miss this part, I can tell you that. Now, I want to ask you so far, have I done a halfway decent job with just part 1 of this training? That even if you left right now, that you could go out and actually use it for what you sell. I want you to let me know in the chat. Just be honest with me. I can take the pain. Have I done a halfway decent job? Yes or no? Type that in the chat bar. Let me know if you've written down some questions that you can use with what you sell. Terry said, this is great. Wendy says yes. All right, awesome. You guys are too nice to me. I appreciate it. The kids always beat up on me. Okay, so I'm going to introduce you just real quick to a couple of my students who've studied and implemented the NEPQ sales process, and you're going to see the results they're getting from the training. Now, the first person I'm going to show you is a gentleman by the name of Max Aria. He went through this exact NEPQ training program certification where his income had plateaued at around $10,000 a month, and he was completely stuck, could not make more than that. He actually sells personal development coaching products. That's going to be the first person. Second person, his name is TG Thomas, who sells business coaching or consulting services. I want you to take a look, see the results.
So I used the traditional selling styles, things that I knew, just doing what I needed to do, and working really, really, really hard to get to $10,000 to $15,000 a month. I mean, I was working, people thought I was a freak, the amount of the hours that I would work and what I would do, training that I would put myself through. So I kind of just started following him and started getting anything that he had, I'd buy and go through his materials. And
where did your income go from there?
Well, after 60 days of going through your process and your materials, I had my paycheck, my month after that 60 days was about $88,000. Wow. So
that's a little bit of increase.
So I went from $10,000 to $15,000, learning what I needed to learn through the art of communication.
Before I started working with them, I mean, I've been in sales for quite some time, and I had evolved myself, and I was really looking for someone to go along the line, the things that were most important to me, which was customer-centered, customer-focused, asking a lot of questions, and I was doing fairly well. But after I met Jeremy, my top month in this new space that I'm in was about $25,000. But my income doubled after that to the point that my top month I grossed in income over $70,000. So I attribute a lot of that to Jeremy, the way he got me focused. If I had to say one thing that he really did to help me out was truly get me focused on a customer-centered approach. I didn't think that I sounded salesy when I was talking to people, but at times, sometimes it came out that it was more me focused than a them focus. So that's the one thing I would say that Jeremy really got me corrected on. I was doing a lot of things right, but he really just kind of fine-tuned some of the things that I was doing. And I highly, highly recommend, if you have an opportunity to work with Jeremy Money, you take advantage of it with both hands. Don't waste any time. You want to get with him as soon as possible, because he can impact your life just as he is mine. And I want to say thank you to you, Jeremy, if you're watching.
All right, there you go. Heard some of my students. So far, has the training been worth the price of admission? I want you to let me know in the chat bar. Has it been worth the price of the admission? All right, good. All right, so let's keep going. Now, you know that if you sell more of your products, your programs, your services, that you are going to make more money. And you also know that if you have a higher closing ratio, that you're going to make more money, but make it in less time. And you also know that if you have accountability, mentorship with someone who's created enormous success in the right sales system, persuasion system, that you're going to be more successful. Now, like I mentioned about 15 minutes ago, I'm going to give you an opportunity to learn. Christy's let me get permission. She wants you to do this. Opportunity to learn and invest in all of NEPQ and know exactly what questions to ask in any conversation, when to ask them, really how to ask them so you can get more deals, enroll more people, close more sales, do it in far less time, and start providing the lifestyle that you want for you and your family, and be able to do it now, not months or years or maybe one day down the road. And that's why I created the NEPQ sales system, really just for you, really for people like you. So here's a quick breakdown of what you're actually going to get. Now, module 1, you're going to learn the psychology of persuasion or selling in the new economy. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to strip it down. We're going to remove the brainwashing of what you've been taught on how to persuade and sell, so you avoid the mistakes that plague most people, most coaches, most salespeople today, and cause them to lose so many deals and sales that they really could be making. Now, module 2, you're going to learn the 5 principles of the new model of selling. Okay, so before we can train you what specific questions to ask, which I just gave you a few today, I gave you like a little hors d'oeuvre, when to ask those questions, how to ask them within a step-by-step structure, you first have to understand why you're even asking those questions in the first place, so that you can learn how to communicate and persuade like an elite professional and make multiple 6 figures, even 7 figures a year. Now, module 3, you're going to learn what are called connecting questions. Okay, I gave you just a tiny sample of those that you can use at the start of any sales conversation that's going to draw your prospects to you like a magnet. Going to give you different examples if you call leads or if you meet people face to face. You're also going to learn what's called a problem statement. Okay, and I don't know how many of you use this, but if you ever do any cold calling, you want to know a problem statement so that you can immediately connect with the gatekeeper and get them over to your side to set more appointments to get you to the decision maker, and much, much more in module 3. That's about an hour and a half training alone. Now, module 4. You're going to master what's called problem awareness question. We've mentioned that a few times. Listen, these questions will help you open the emotional door to your prospect, so you get them engaged within their emotions and what their problem is doing to them, which will dramatically increase your conversion rates, because people buy 100% on emotion, remember, and only justify with logic. Now, module 5. Solution awareness questions. We talked briefly on those. These help your potential customer and their ideas to find out what they've done in the past to solve their problem, so they start to own their problems emotionally. And they help them look at what their future will look like once they take action and change their situation, which will tie them into wanting to buy from you rather than a competitor. Huge. Module 6, you're going to learn the almighty powerful consequence questions, some of the most powerful questions you can ever ask, that allows your prospect to question their way of thinking and explore the consequences. What are they going to do if they don't change their situation, solve their problem, so you stop chasing people and have them chase you? It's a lot more fun. This is going to cause you to make a lot more money in a lot less time, so you can take more vacations. You can have more free time to actually enjoy the money you're making. Module 7, you're going to learn how to diffuse almost any objection that you get by skillfully asking what are called diffusing questions, which help your potential customer to overcome their own concerns rather than you trying to do that. So you never have to worry about talking someone into doing something ever again, which is going to make your career a lot more fun, but a lot more profitable. Now, module 8, you're going to learn how to commit and close like a world-class professional by asking what are called committing questions, also known as closing, to help them commit, take the next step to purchase what you're offering, and do it now, not later. Now, I want you to imagine this. Imagine if almost everyone you talked to said yes, and you didn't hear the words, "I need to think it over," all of the time. You see, committing questions make the close feel natural because your prospect doesn't feel any sales pressure from you whatsoever. Now, total value, like I said, of the NEPQ sales system is $8,000. What I'm going to do is throw in a special bonus called the NEPQ cold calling script. So if you ever cold call, this will help you win over your gatekeeper every single time. The value of those cold calling scripts, almost $600 just themselves, $597. I'm also going to throw in this bonus, and it's called the NEPQ script to call your leads. So you're going to use this script. It will help you build instant trust and credibility even in the first 10 to 30 seconds of every single call that you're making. Now that script, calling lead script, has a value of $597 as well. Now, third bonus I'm going to give you is the objection handling scripts. So you're going to discover what questions to ask to get your prospect to overcome their own concerns, rather than using these old, outdated, manipulative methods that probably don't make you feel very comfortable and certainly doesn't work very well. So you're going to diffuse objections like this. I need to think it over. Your price for your program is just too high. I can't afford it. You ever get that one? I need to talk to my spouse. I need to talk to my boss. I need to talk to my Uncle Joe that lives in a van down by the river, right? Why should I buy this from you instead of this other program? We're just shopping around, or we're happy with what we already have. Sound familiar? So if you want to overcome these objections, these scripts will help you do that. Imagine for a second you being able to overcome just those objections I just told there. How many more deals, how many more programs, how many more sales would you make on a weekly basis if you knew how to actually do that? Imagine that for a second. Now, the NEPQ objection handling scripts, $749 value. Now, bonus 4, I'm going to give you our closing scripts, committing scripts, how to wrap the deals up. You're going to know what questions to ask to get your prospect to close themselves. You're going to learn the mistakes that 99% of salespeople and coaches make when trying to close a deal, so you avoid those like the freaking plague, like run the other way. NEPQ committing scripts, $749 value. Now, bonus number 5. This is a cool bonus. This is internet domination. Okay. So over the past years, couple years since I started 7-Level Communication, we get lots of emails from people saying, hey, I'm making so many more sales in my business or in my job or whatever using NEPQ, but do you know where I can get more leads? Or do you know where I can get more better leads? I don't have enough leads. I don't have enough people to talk to. I've heard this for 2 years straight now. So here's what I'm going to do for you if you're having that problem as well. My secret weapon on the internet is my business partner, Lanny. And he's done over $100 million of revenue on the internet. And he actually accepted the Lifetime Achievement Award at what is called the Webby Awards. The Webby Awards. Imagine that. It's the internet equivalent of winning an Oscar. It's a big deal for internet marketers. So what he did is he figured out a way to ethically and legally get in front of your competition's highest value prospects. I want you to imagine this. The cool part about these techniques is that they're very easy to do and they don't require any special technical skills, because I don't have any. You're going to learn how to get into the inbox, email accounts of your competitors' prospects' emails. You're also going to learn where to get in front of people who've bought your competitor's product too. Imagine that for a second. How do you get into your competitor's inbox of their email accounts? It's crazy. It's a crazy technique. I'm going to tell you, you won't find those strategies anywhere else because he's the only one doing those. And I want to give you access to that so you can get more quality leads that you can talk to. So not just even a lot of leads, but high quality leads, so you can make more deals, enroll more people in your programs, close more sales, which is going to make you what? More money. Now that domination internet training, we don't even have a price tag on it because you can't put a real value on it with getting that amount of leads, that quality leads. You're going to make a lot of money. I will tell you that from that. Now, bonus number 5, we're going to allow you into our private Facebook community, okay? So you're going to be able to network with other top sales professionals, other top coaches who are also going through NEPQ like you are. And they're going through that, and you're going to be able to ask questions, and people will come to your rescue to help you. including some of our staff and members as well. We include this for you at no cost at all. So bonus number 7, and this is probably the most important. And that's where I'm going to give you one of my certified trainers, one of my corporate trainers, who's going to take you through the NEPQ sales system and train you in each of the 8 modules and actually train you so you start getting results right away. And why is that so important to you now? Because having a trainer to personally train you and hold you accountable will increase your selling quickly, which of course increases your income. Second, because all high performers, as you know, have a coach, have a mentor. They have a guide to help them eliminate any mistakes they might make and get them on the correct path to success. And finally, the third reason this bonus is so important to you is the trainer that will be assigned to you is also certified in the NEPQ sales system. And for them to even qualify to be a trainer, they had to go through NEPQ, be certified, and make at least $250,000 a year after going through the training. These are some of the most highly sought after qualified trainers in any industry. So here's what will happen. Your trainer will do 10 straight sessions with you to help you learn the NEPQ model and help you start seeing results right away with all of those questions. After your 10th appointment, they're going to sit down and do a 12-month sales plan with you. And this plan is to make sure you have a step-by-step plan of action to actually achieve your income goals in the next 12 months. The cost of those sessions, I will tell you, is normally $2,000. We charge normal people, but you're going to get those at no cost if you're among the first 30 people who enroll in the NEPQ sales system. I already talked to this with Christy. We only have room for 30 people. Here's the reason why. It's not some tactic to have somebody enroll. It's because of the amount of personal contact, the support, the coaching from that trainer, and the high bar we set for them to be one of our trainers. Space on their calendar is very limited. That's why we will only limit it to 30 people today. Now, value of the certified trainer, $2,000. Like I said, we give the first 30 of you that at no cost. Total value, NEPQ sales system, plus all the bonuses we give you access to is $12,692. Now, I want to ask you this. What's a 50% increase in more deals, more sales worth to you financially? What's a 50% increase to you worth financially? Imagine if you could double that, triple that, or even 10x that like Max Aria did when he went from making $10,000 a month selling coaching programs to over $100,000 a month selling the exact same product or service. So if you want to double your current sales volume after going through the training, how much money would you be making in a year? So if you were to double your current sales, your current people you're enrolling or whatever you're selling, how much more money would you be making in a year? I want you to imagine that. If you made that annual income that you just thought of in your mind after accessing the NEPQ sales system, would that be worth paying $12,692, assuming you had the money? Here's the good news is you're not going to have to actually pay that much. Okay, my slides are going a little bit slow today because today what we did, I worked this out with Christy, we actually lowered it all the way down to $19.97 for you. So you actually save, it's like $10,600 some dollars, which is really awesome for you. But what I'm also going to do for each of you today, because Christy wanted me to do this for you, if you promise to share your case study with us after you go through the training, you apply the NEPQ sales system to your career business, we know that once you do that, you will become a leader in your industry. And all we ask is that you allow us to use your success as a case study, like we've done with some of these people you saw in videos today, because I will tell you it really helps people. And at $19.97, I would think you'd agree with me, it's probably a pretty good deal. But like I said, during this event only, you're going to save $1,500 and only invest, I think Lanny said I was crazy, $497 today. That's it. Now, if you live in the United States and you don't want to pay anything today for the sales system and pay nothing today, you can use what's called PayPal credit and get 6 months with no interest and no payments, which a lot of people do. Or if you even need it, if it helps you out even more, we would be willing to let you do a 3-payment plan of 3 easy payments of $197 per month for 3 months, and you would just pay an extra $100 for that plan. You wouldn't get the actual full discount. Now, I'm also going to do something crazy that you're rarely going to see anywhere else. Here's the deal with me. I want you to go through the entire program. I'm all about results. I want you to work with your certified trainer we'll give you access to and implement the entire NEPQ sales system over the next 12 months, okay? And if you don't make at least 10 times what you invested in the program, we will happily refund you the $497. So really all the risk is on me and really none of it's on you. Now, let's do part 2. We're going to do part of the 2 training, and then I'm going to answer these questions. I'm going to give people these 2 closing questions I promised I would give you. So let's go through steps 5 through 8 of the NEPQ process. Now, step number 5 is called consequence questions. Remember, consequence questions are some of the most powerful questions you will ask because it allows your prospect to question their way of thinking. If you don't learn how to ask consequence questions, then you miss being able to help them psychologically sell themselves on wanting to do something about their problem and doing that with you. That means buy from you now, not months down the road, especially if you're selling a high-priced product that typically takes months to close. Consequence questions can reduce your sales cycle by, I would say, 50 to 80%, meaning they close themselves much faster rather than you having to go to appointment after meeting while they shop around on price with you. And when you close faster, what does that do to your commissions? You make a lot more money. You know. Now, I'm going to give you some examples of consequence questions. Okay, write these down. How about this? John, have you considered the possible ramifications about not doing anything about your situation? Sally, I hate to ask you this, but what are you going to do if nothing changes? I mean, if you keep doing the same thing here for the next 2 or 3 or even 5 years? Or how about this one? John, have you thought about what would happen to your company if you don't do anything about this? Now, again, you're going to find all types of consequence questions and exactly when and how to ask them in the NEPQ sales system. I just gave you a little hors d'oeuvre of them right there. Actually, Module 6 is a full hour-and-a-half training on consequence questions. Now, step number 6. This is called qualifying questions, okay? Now, qualifying questions confirm how important is it for them to change their situation. And you can use these at the beginning, the middle, even at the end, if you're picking up that they might not have the money, they might not have the funding for them to do business with you, because you don't want to waste your time, right? Now, if you don't know when and how to ask qualifying questions and at the right time, you're either going to waste time with prospects who don't have the funding or money to do business with you, or you're going to offend prospects who do have the funds by the way you ask qualifying questions the wrong way and at the wrong time. So there's important to do this. So I'm going to give you a few examples. Let's say you pick up on a fact that they might not have funds to do business with you by a few things they say at the beginning of the conversation. You might want to ask this qualifying question. Mr. Jones, if you were to find something that could get you what you're looking for, what type of funding would you have to put into it? Or depending on what you sell, you could say it this way. John, if you were to find something that could get you what you're looking for, what type of money would you have to put into it? Or you could ask this, Sally, how important is it for you to change your situation and start, and then you're going to plug in what they said they wanted. See how that works, that formula? All right. Step 7. Let's go to transition questions, okay? Transition questions help you feedback what your prospect told you they're looking for and why they want it, which leads into you presenting back to them how your solution, your program can solve the problems they just told you they had. Now, without asking these questions, it makes your presentation feel like a sales pitch. And according to behavioral science, very low on the persuasive poll. Ask yourself, what do you do when a salesperson goes into pitch mode? You either get defensive, throw out objections, reject, or you withdraw and you can't email them back, find them anywhere. They're just gone. They disappear. Okay. Step 8. These are called committing questions, also known as closing questions. Remember, closing is only 5% of your process to close now. You're going to ask a few committing questions to help them commit and take the next step to purchasing what you're offering. Now, here's the deal with me. I don't like the word closing, okay? Because it feels like you're demeaning the person you're talking to, like they're just a number, like another social security number, and you're just there to try to make a sale rather than being there to help them solve their problem, okay? Committing questions make the close feel natural because your prospect will not feel sales pressure from you. And let me ask you, how easy would it be to sell your services or your product if your prospect didn't feel any sales pressure because the questions you asked caused them to actually sell themselves? So let me give you a few examples of these that you can use properly. At the end of feeding back the information that they said they wanted, you can ask this question. And it's a very simple but very powerful question. Amy, do you feel like this could be the answer for you? Sally, do you feel like this could be the answer for you? Now, most of the time, if you've done this right, they're going to say, yeah, I think it would. Oh, hold on, though. Why do you feel like it would, though? That is a NEPQ probing question. Like I said, in Module 8, we're going to train you a bunch of different committing questions and probing questions. I'm just giving you a little sample. It's about an hour training Module 8. Now, I have to ask you, with all of that, is there any reason not to be using the NEPQ sales system? Okay. Do you think that, let's say, just one of these steps could increase your closing rate by 20%? How about if you used all 8 of them? What type of closing rate do you think you'd actually have at that point? Think about that. So I'm going to do a quick recap, and then I'm going to answer your questions of what you've learned. So you've learned an 8-step process is asking these questions. Step number 1, connecting questions. Step number 2, situation. Step number 3, problem awareness questions. Step 4, solution awareness. Step 5, consequence. Step 6, qualifying questions. Step 7, transition questions. And finally, step 8, committing questions. All right. Now, I'm going to introduce you to another one of my students. His name is Tony Bianco. And I want you to see the results that he is getting right now from using the NEPQ sales system.
Jeremy Miner's training has done for me personally is it's helped me to reconnect at that human level. It's bringing humanity back into business. And in my life, it's been revolutionary. My grandmother was a person who was really good at sales, and she always shared with me that money becomes a measurement of how well you serve your fellow mankind. But sometimes when you're using that old method, you just ask yourself, well, who did I serve, them or did I serve me? Jeremy Miner's training, the 7-figure sales training, has really enabled me to really care a lot about the customer and the client. And in that interaction of caring with the customer and the client, what ends up happening is you end up making more sales because you're doing it the right way. The sales have been increasing, it feels good, and the results are incredible. Accounts that I would have been able to get, now I'm getting into billion-dollar nonprofit organizations. Those are the kind of accounts that completely transform your business.
All right, so I'm going to introduce you to another one of my students. His name is Johnny Custer. He actually sells medical device sales. And as you can read here, just from his recent Facebook post, he started before the training, he was making about $50,000 a year. After a training, 1 year later, he jumped to over $175,000 selling the exact same thing. He was recently promoted, and he allowed me to share this with you, that he is now on pace in his new promotion, because he's over sales of his whole company, to make over $700,000 this year. Imagine 18 months ago, he was making about $5,000 a month. 18 months later, he is now making over $60,000 a month. Now imagine that being you. What would you do with that type of income for you and your family? You see, that's how you double your commissions. That's how you double your deals and sales, by following the 8-step NEPQ sales system. So remember, when you invest in the NEPQ sales system, you're going to get the entire system, all of the cold calling scripts, the scripts to call leads, all of the objection handling scripts, the committing closing scripts, the internet competition domination complete system, Facebook community, and most importantly, one of our certified trainers to actually train you. Remember, the value of the NEPQ sales system, all the bonuses we do is $12,692. You're going to be saving, I think it's, I don't know, $10,600 some dollars. And remember, if you're open to it, giving us testimonials after you've gone through the training and you've dramatically increased your results and income, we're going to save you another $1,500, which will bring it down to $497 today. Now remember, the first 30 of you who enroll in the NEPQ system, only the first 30 will get one of our certified trainers who's going to train you through the entire system. We can only do this with the first 30. Here's why. We only have a limited numbers of trainers that we have available to you right now. We don't have 500 gazillion trainers out there. Now, remember, if you live in the US and you want to get access to the sales system and pay nothing today, you can use what's called PayPal credit and get 6 months with no interest, no payments. If you need even more help, we're willing to be there to help you out to get your results. You can do a 3-payment plan of 3 easy payments of $197 per month for 3 months. You would just have to pay an extra $100 for that plan. You wouldn't get the full discount. Also, I'm going to have you go through the entire program, going to work with your trainer, implement the entire NEPQ system with what you sell over the next 12 months. And like I mentioned, if you don't make at least 10 times what you invested in the program, we will happily give you your $497 back. All the risk is on me. None of it's on you. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and answer some of your questions. What I want you to do, and it looks like, okay, it looks like we have, we've had 12 people enroll in the NEPQ program so far. So we've got 18 spots that we'll leave open, like I said, for the trainer and for the program. But what I want you to do, if you have a question, I want you to type it in the chat bar. So I want you to type that in the chat bar. Let me minimize my screen here. Judy says, is your guarantee in writing? Yes, Judy, it is in writing. I will tell you, I've done the guarantee for 2 years now. We've never had one person ever have to ask for a refund. That means they're actually using the program and getting results. But if they do, we definitely have that in writing for a person. Okay, let's see. Lisa says, yeah, go ahead.
So someone that is basically a coach starting out, they want to start, getting clients. They're an Uber driver. They want to get a client, right? So they're not doing like a cold call or, getting on a call in that way, or maybe not even doing advertising. So I know someone had wrote something like, what if you're not doing advertising? So could this work for them? Like, say, driving in the car, the same kind of questions, the same kind of process instead of what you were talking about.
Yeah, 100%. Like I said, we train, I don't know how many different types of coaching programs, life coaching, business coaching, consulting. I even have a gentleman in our advanced one-on-one program that sells acne coaching, teaches women how to naturally get rid of their acne. And he doesn't even call leads. He just goes out and meets people. So we just restructure those connecting questions. Let's say if you're an Uber driver driving down the road and you're chatting about, you just say, oh, so hey, welcome. Where do you want to go? And start driving down the road. And you just start up a normal conversation. And you might ask them, so what do you do for a living? What are you in town for? That would be your first situation question. You're finding out why they're even there. Okay. Oh, I do this or I do that. Okay. Oh, how long have you been doing that for? Oh, I've been doing it for 10 years. Oh, okay. Interesting. Do you like what you're doing for a living? That would be your first problem awareness question. Okay. And so, yeah, we give different examples of that in the NEPQ system of calling leads or talking with somebody that you've just met. Could be in the grocery store, could be in Uber, but that's how we would start out that conversation. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, perfect. All right, and I want you to ask me more questions as they come in here. Let's see. Do you have an email to contact customer service? Yes, Melanie, we do. Let's go ahead. I can actually even type it in there. It is support.
Oh, Lanny just typed it in. You're good. So
did he? Okay,
let me ask you another question, Jeremy. So if you have someone that I can see this working on one-on-one, but what if you're trying to enroll people like in a group coaching program, for example? Could you do that with many people? How would you, I guess?
So we also train people who do major presentations on stage, that sell from stage, sell coaching programs, sell, I've got a client over in the UK that sells franchises from the stage. Okay. Wow. So he's out on crowd and he's got usually 300 to 500 people out in the audience. So we just tailor the questions a little bit differently depending on the size of the crowd. Like a question might be tailored a little bit different if it was just 2 or 3 people compared to if it was 200 people. Okay. So we teach in the NPQ system how to tailor the questions depending on if you're talking to a group or if you're talking one-on-one or one-to-many. So let's say, I train a lot of network marketers, that do presentations in front of 30 people or 10 people right at home or whatever. And so I might ask them, let's see if there's 10 people out there in their house and they might get on a whiteboard and we teach them how to do this. Like, okay, so tell me again, I'm just going to pick one of you here in the room, Fred, what did you say you do for a living? Okay, you're a firefighter. All right, so everybody else, what do you guys do for a living? And they spout it off real quick. Okay, so I want you to write that down on a piece of paper, what you do for a living now. And how long have you been doing it? Okay, Fred says 10 years. Sylvia says 8. Sally says 5 years. Okay, so the question I'm going to ask you, and I'm going to ask you this first, Fred, do you like what you're doing for a living? Let's say Fred says, no, I don't like it. Okay, so Fred says no. Now I want everybody else in the room, think about that same question and write it down on your piece of paper. Do you like what you're doing for a living? Yes or no? And then everybody writes that answer down. And we go through those questions using one person, but then directing it through the whole group to get them emotionally involved. See how it kind of fits in? Yep. Okay. All right. So I've got some other questions here. Carol says, question, how much more effective is it to ask, do you like what you do? A yes or no question instead of asking, what do you like most about what you do? An open-ended question that further engages them. Yes, it is far more effective. We're all taught from old school sales techniques that do not ask a closed-ended question, because if you ask a closed-ended question where they can say yes or no, that is just horrible and you're going to lose some sales. Well, there's really no science to back up that claim. It just sounds good. According to science, that's just not the case. It's when you're asking open-ended or closed-ended question, you're just having a conversation, Carol. So if I say, Sally, do you like what you're doing for a living? She can either say yes, no, or she might be in the middle. Well, I kind of do, but, and depending on if she says yes, no, or in the middle is dependent on the next question you're going to ask. So if she says, no, I don't, I would say, well, what don't you like? If she says, yes, I do, I would ask, oh, what do you like about it? What do you enjoy? If she's in the middle, well, I kind of like it, but you don't sound very sure about it. What don't you like? So there's 3 paths that answer they gave you can go down. And we show you how to go down each of those paths. Because if you're just asking questions like, what do you like most about what you do? It's just so cliche. Every person asks those logical, open-ended questions. And people have heard it so many times, Carol. It's just, it might have been affected 20 or 30 years ago, but it's so overused, especially in coaching and different things, that it almost makes people want to puke at this point, okay? So my suggestion, you can ask that. Far more powerful to ask a problem awareness question, though, Carol, for sure. I know if I would have asked open-ended, just only open-ended questions like that when I sold coaching and different things, no way I would have made the amount of money I did, for sure. So, Carol, I hope that answered your question for you. Okay, Melanie said, sounds like you were typing email of customer support, but nothing came up on my screen. There's a static up now. Can you please carry on and speak it out loud then? I thought we typed it in.
We did.
She not seen it?
But Carol's saying, thank you, Jeremy. That makes so much more sense.
Yeah, Carol, I hate to be a Debbie Downer. I just want to give you results, not a bunch of hype. Okay. All right. So there it is, support@seventhlevelcommunications.com. But you're welcome, Carol. Okay.
Okay, I have another question for you.
Yes, fire away.
What if someone's like, okay, this sounds like something I want to do. I want to increase my sales. I want to be able to, something I want to just say is that, you know, if it sounds like this is all just about selling, it's about selling your products and service so that you can make a difference. So that you, for those of you that are coaches that are just totally from your heart and want to serve people, you still need to make money. And you, whatever you do with that money is up to you. You can totally start an organization, feed starving kids, do whatever you want with it. But in order to be able to survive and have a roof over your head and not struggle with money, this is a process. It's not the only process, but this is a effective process that has been used by many, many different people in many, many different industries, clearly. So if I can't afford $500 right now, right? What would you say to them?
Well, I would say, tell me if you did have the funding to that person, is this something they feel would work for them? And if they say yes, I would say, well, why do you feel like it is though? Why do you feel like NEPQ can help you communicate more effectively to bring on more clients? Because if you can't communicate your message effectively, then what happens for your client? Well, they don't get any of their problems solved. So you're not really serving them. You're not really helping them solve their problems if they're not purchasing into your program, right? So my question would be is, you know, I can appreciate that money might be an issue. How do you think you can resolve that where you can find the funding so you can learn how to communicate and bring more people in to help solve more problems and actually make a living doing it? Like, what avenues does that person have to find funding so they can make more money and have more time with their family? So let's see if they can come up with avenues they can find funding. Or, you know, I would ask them, what avenues do you have to find funding so you can actually make more sales and be able to serve more people? Because if you can't come up with the funding, then you can't what?
Change your situation.
You can't change your situation. And if you keep communicating the same way, what type of results will you get a month from now? What type of results will you get from 90 days? What type of results will you have in 6 months? The same exact results you're having now. So I guess the question would be is, do you want to actually change your situation, or do you want to keep staying in the same situation you're in?
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
It does. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Perfect. All right, good. Carol says, that explains why closing has been difficult at times. Yes, you are getting it. Good job. All right, let's go through some more questions here. I've got plenty of time, actually, if you guys want to ask me questions. We've had 14 people enroll in the NEPQ system. So I want to talk to the 14 people who just enrolled, okay? So what will happen right after you enroll and pay the, whatever it is, the 400 some bucks or whatever we're letting you have it at, you're going to get a thank you page that will come up. There'll be like a little short video of me. Don't make fun of me, you know, short video I shot for you. And it will kind of explain the next step instructions to you. So you'll get an email within about 5 or 10 minutes after you enroll. If you don't see in your inbox, go to your spam folder. If you use Gmail, sometimes it'll go in your promotions tab, just a word of advice. In that email, it's going to have your username and password to be able to log in to access the 8 modules of the NEPQ sales system. Now, module 1 should already be opened. Also on that same email, it's going to give you your trainers, your coaches' information. It's going to have like their name, it's going to have their phone number, it's going to have their scheduling calendar, and it's also going to have their Skype ID. If you guys are familiar with Skype, I want you to download it on your computer or cell phone, because your trainer is actually in those 10 sessions going to train you where you can actually see them, because there's certain things we're going to visually show you on whiteboards and different things on those sessions. And they're only about 10 to 15 minute sessions. They're not hours or anything like that. But there's certain things we're going to show you on those sessions that you can only see them on video. They wouldn't be able to train you very effectively. They just called you on a cell phone. You wouldn't get much out of it compared to seeing them on video. So make sure you download Skype, add their Skype ID. It'll give you instructions on how to do that. It's very easy. And then make sure you schedule for your first appointment. Jump on their calendar tomorrow. I will tell you, the 30 people that we're letting to have a trainer, you know, if they enroll and then don't book for 3 or 4 days, we have to move on and train other people. We can't enroll and then, hey, can I just get with you a month or later? Our trainers are too busy. We have corporate clients. Our biggest corporate client is Ravana Google AdWords. Anybody ever heard of Google AdWords? We're training their AdWords division. Just in the last 3 months since we started, they've seen a 76% increase. Not a bad start. That's a lot of money for that company. Okay. If you can think in billions of dollars. All right. So make sure that you book on their trainer, book on their calendar, like tomorrow, worst case Monday, and you're going to have those appointments and they're going to answer your questions and really show you how to avoid any mistakes, show you how to use the questions so you can start getting results like right now. Like not a month later or 2 months later, but literally right now. You know, why wait weeks or months down the road to bring more people into your programs or to make more sales? Why not do it now? Okay, let's go through more questions here. I'm going to roll down here. I know you got more questions here. Let's see. Answered Carol's. Okay, Sylvia, welcome. I paid for the program, including the DVDs and CDs. I hope there's no problem shipping those to Spain. Sylvia, we have customers in 41 different countries, and I do know Spain is one of those. We are looking to get the NEPQ sales system actually translated into Spanish, French, and Portuguese, I think the third quarter of this year. So yes, we do ship to Spain. I've never been there, but I want to. So yeah, no problem.
I highly recommend it.
What's that? Oh, he'd go to Spain?
Well, I highly recommend it.
Okay, Melanie says, damn, I'm just getting into coaching and would love to get into this. It costs me almost double or some deal that's available for me down here on the other side of the world, not earning much at the moment while I learn the business. Okay, so Melanie, I'm not sure. Are you hearing an echo, Kristen?
No.
Oh, I'm getting an echo on mine.
Do you want me to mute out or?
I don't know. All right, well, come back on in a minute. Let's see if it works. But Melanie, I'm not sure where you're at. But like I said, the question would be do you want to start getting results in your coaching program? I don't even know, we're $497 worth getting results or not getting results? That probably be the question you might want to ask yourself. Tanya says, I make zero, so I can only afford zero. Thank you for the information. You are welcome, Tanya. Hopefully you can find the funding so you stop making zero. So you can actually afford and have those things in your life. So like I said, we're only here to help. So hopefully you can find the funding to learn those skills so you start making a lot of income in your business. Lisa, did you give transition question examples? I didn't, Lisa, on that, just because I wanted to cut out some time on the webinar, but we do a whole training on transition questions in module 7 of the program. It's about an hour and 15 minutes long, where you're going to learn transition questions. Let's see. We don't get PayPal credit New Zealand, Melanie. I'm so sorry, Melanie. You need to write PayPal and say, what the heck is going on? Let's see, what else? Is that legal, getting into competitors' inbox? Yeah, so Lanny, are you on here? Do you want to explain how you get into, just kind of give an overview of how it's legal to get in people's inboxes?
Yeah, Jeremy, I'd be happy to. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, loud and clear.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because, when somebody says, let me start by saying, when it comes to finding clients or prospects, you have to understand levels of awareness, and basically when somebody, there's 5 levels of awareness. When somebody has no idea they have a problem and they have no idea there's a solution, if they don't even know they have a problem, they're at the lowest level of awareness. And then if you go up one step, they become problem aware. They become aware they have a problem or a challenge, but they're not aware that there's a solution. And if you go one step up on the ladder of awareness, they become problem aware, So they are aware they have a problem, and they also become aware that there is a solution. If you take it one level up, the fourth level, they're aware they have a problem. They're aware that there's a solution for them, and then they become aware of who you are. And then the fifth level awareness is they're looking for a deal. They're looking for some sort of product to satisfy their problem. So what the techniques we teach in that program are it isn't like, I know some people had some negative connotations that you're actually stealing leads. You're not stealing leads. You're actually just doing really great marketing to find the people that have already been made problem aware and solution aware. Because when it comes to finding new prospects or new clients, especially like in life coaching, is it easier to bring somebody in who already knows they have a problem? They already know that life coaching works, that the life coaching works. They just need to find the right life coach. Bam, that's you. Is it easier to get that person, or is it easier to get somebody to be aware that they have a problem, aware there's a solution, aware, bring somebody from the lowest level of awareness to the top takes a lot of time and takes a lot of money. So what we do is we teach you to go find the people at the top of the level of awareness that already know they have a problem. They already have the solution. So how it is we teach you how to find the people that have already been marketed to by other companies for life coaching services, or for anything for that matter. So it isn't about stealing leads. It's about really, although some of the techniques we show you are about hijacking really the marketing that other people are doing to educate the market to get people that are right for you. For example, Oprah. Oprah as a perfect example. Oprah has created an awareness shift like nobody probably in recent memory. She had a platform, a TV show for 25 years where she was continually educating and expanding awareness, bringing people up the ladder. So wouldn't Oprah's people, her fans, be a great target for something like life coaching? Absolutely. So we show you how to target that. Now, you're not stealing anything from Oprah. Like, Oprah's fine. She's going to be okay. The biggest problem Oprah had is there were some fires and some mudslides in Montecito, where she lives up near Ventura, California. But do you get what I'm saying? So it's not about taking from somebody else. It's about using smart marketing. It's about using smart marketing to find the most problem-aware, solution-aware people so that the transaction happens faster and easier without spending a ton of money and a ton of time building awareness. So does that help clarify? I'm not sure who asked that question. I'd love to see him in the chat. If you're still on here, does that help clarify for you guys? Or do you have any follow-up questions on that? Because one of the other things too, Jeremy, in the bonus program, I also give away a sales funnel that's perfect for life coaches. So I actually give a funnel away that leads through the step-by-step process of building their business, which I think is really cool.
Oh, it's massive. When you got the right...
It's actually the funnel that we use in 7th level communication. It's pretty awesome. And you can rip it off. And I actually show you how to rip it off. Not only show you how to rip off the funnel that we use, but then how to put it in front of the right people so that you get business. So it isn't about, I know it's like when you said it in the bonus, it sounded bad. I was like, man, when the person made the comment, hey, is it legal to steal? I was like, well, we're not stealing, but I could see why they think that. So I'm not being critical of what they were thinking. I could see how they would have that belief based on, maybe we'll rework that slide so it doesn't.
We'll rework that slide. Go ahead, Christy, go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say something. It's kind of like if, you see something you go onto some kind of store online, maybe it's Neiman Marcus or Nordstrom's or whatever store it is. It could be a golf store. And all of a sudden you click on there and you see a product that you like, but you decide not to buy it. And then it's almost like you go to another website and that same golf clubs or that same dress or that same pair of shoes or whatever it is keeps popping up, right? That's a marketing technique that they use in internet marketing. It's not legal, but it's their way of, they know you like that product because you've already been looking at that product. So it's 100%. A way of retargeting.
100%.
That's one of the things we teach is how to retarget people and chase them on the internet wherever they go and hound them until they buy from you. So yeah, it's a great technique. And the great thing about it too is, here's what's funny, Christy, is there's a term called CPM, or cost per 1,000 impressions. And when you buy traffic, you have a cost per 1,000 impressions when you buy traffic. And if you're buying traffic on Facebook right now, on Google, a lot of these platforms, your cost per 1,000 impressions is right around, it could be like $25, $30, $35 per 1,000 impressions. So for every 1,000 eyeballs that see your message, you're paying about 25, 30, 35 bucks. But when you retarget those visitors, so those visitors come to your page and you place the pixel and you retarget them, that retargeting traffic cost is only about $1 per 1,000 impressions, or $1.20 per 1,000. So one of the things we teach is how to find the right eyeballs, get them to the right page, and then retarget them for pennies on the dollar and get the deal that way. So you can save a ton of money on your ad spend. So it's stuff like that. And a lot of our people that we've gone through the bonus had never even marketed on the internet before. And they started, as a result of that program, they actually started, which was really cool. So we have like brand new people that have never done a thing on the internet working in the process, which is kind of fun. I love that stuff.
Hey, we've got a member trying to enroll named Sharon Wilniski, Sharon Willinsky, and I think probably want to have her get with customer service. I think she's tried to run her card a few times and it's not going through. So, Sharon, if you're on, and sometimes that happens, you might want to call your card company or your bank and let them know the amount coming off the card and that it's coming from 7th Level Communications, and they should let that go through. But I would suggest probably email support, and we can see if we can help you any further. Okay, so I've got another question here that I wanted to address, and it's from Laura, and she says, "What if you're selling something that would a person have never used before, like solar energy?" Well, that's a good question. We train a lot of people that sell solar. In fact, I actually trained the #1 salesperson in the United States for a company called Solar City. If you've ever heard of Solar City, it's the biggest, I think, solar company. His name was Joseph Roberry, and we have him on video. I think he was making good money, maybe about $150,000 a year. And within 12 months later, and I can't remember what he said he made, but it was close to $1 million that next year, selling the exact same thing, nothing different, doing it door to door, sold solar panels. So, Laura, to answer your question, it doesn't matter what you sell, what you do. We train salespeople in hundreds of different industries, coaches, anything you can ever think of that's ever sold. We train those type of people. So it doesn't matter if they've never used it. Solar energy really solves a lot of problems. It actually solves environmental issues. But the main thing it solves is if you don't have solar, you're paying a utility company who has a monopoly and you are renting your energy forever. So you have a never-ending bill. It's like the perfect business model. We should get into utility bills, right? So when you have solar, it drops your bill typically about 20%, and usually within 10 or 15 years, you have it paid off where you no longer have a utility bill. So are you going to rent your energy for the rest of your life and have a never-ending bill, or are you going to save money now and actually have it pay off in 10 years like owning a house? So solar, if it's positioned right and communicated right, is a very easy sale for sure. So hopefully that answered your question, Laura. All right,
Jeremy, can I add something to that?
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, on the solar thing, it just so happens, I'll just throw this in there, that we had a training yesterday that's recorded that they're going to get that actually went through the process of driving solar energy leads. Like I spent about a full hour with a guy who's doing solar, walking him step by step through targeting, lead generation, sales funnel, web page, the whole 9 yards.
Interesting.
So that's kind of funny that came up. I just happened to mention that because it just happened yesterday.
I like that. Now, Melanie asked, is marketing to people in different countries needing different actions or options? I'm not sure how to answer that question, Lanny. I'm not really a marketer.
I think she's trying to ask you, is it the same in other countries as it would be in the States? Like, does this process work? So.
Oh, the communication process?
I think that's what she's asking.
Yeah. So Melanie, yeah, like I said, we train.
Right.
We train coaches, salespeople in 41 different countries that, probably speak, 30 some different languages. So the questions would be exactly the same, but obviously they would, you'd have to translate them in that language. So I'm not a very good translator, but yes, it would be the same process. There wouldn't be a difference. Like if I'm communicating to somebody in France I'm going to communicate the same way I would if I lived in Canada or if I lived in Mexico, but it'd be in a different language, asking the same questions. Judy says, thanks. Great presentation. Signing off now. You're welcome, Judy. I hope you got a lot of help from there. Don,
hey, Jeremy, can I add one thing to Melanie's? If she's truly talking about marketing, you know, is marketing to people in different countries needing different, if she's referring to the marketing piece, it's actually so much cheaper to market in other countries. Like the most expensive market in the world is the United States. You know, number 2 is Canada, number 3 is the UK. But like if I'm let's say doing something in Spain or Italy, I've run the exact same campaign in those countries and it costs 1/10 the amount in traffic cost and sometimes a 20th. So like if a click costs me $1 in the United States, I can get that same click for 5 cents in Italy. So right. If she is talking about marketing and not actual sales, it's way easier in foreign countries. I just wanted to add that in.
Ah, that's good. All right. Melanie asked, do you have people who have joined NBQ from New Zealand? Yes. I mean, we trained 279,000 people in the world over the last 2 years. So I'm assuming some of those are from New Zealand. I don't know if that's hundreds or thousands. I'm not sure, but definitely at least hundreds, Melanie. So hopefully that answers your question. Don is asking me, hi, Jeremy, could you provide some examples of applying this to cold calling? Okay, so Don, I'm not sure what you sell. Maybe you could ping me on what you actually sell. But in Module 3, you're going to learn how to do a few things. You're going to learn what are called situation questions, connecting questions, and you're also going to learn how to use what's called a problem statement if you cold call. Now, cold calling is not calling a lead. There's a difference. A lead is somebody who's requested information about your services or products or showed some form of interest, basically raised their hand and said, hey, I might be interested, call me. That is a lead. Cold calling is like taking a name out of a phone book who has no idea who you are, who you've never talked to, never seen, they know nothing about you, and randomly picking that person with your finger and just calling them. That is a cold call, okay? So cold calling, you're going to come up with what's called a problem statement, which we train on that in Module 3. Because what do most people do when they cold call you? What's the first words out of most people's mouths? Hi, yeah, is this Jane? Hey, Jane, this is John Smith with XYZ Services. What we do, I wanted to call you. The reason why I'm calling you is because with our, and they just go into their pitch. Hi, my name is, I'm with, what we do is. And what immediately goes off in your mind? Salesperson trying to sell you something. So we obviously don't want you to have to go through that, okay? Because you're going to get rejected 99% of the time. So we're going to train you on what's called a, okay, so hold on. Melanie says money saving doesn't normally relate to New Zealand. We pay more down here, USD. Okay, yeah, you do pay a little bit more with where you're at. So anyway, sorry. So you're going to learn what's called a problem statement, where we're going to focus on a generic problem that anybody you call can identify with. Okay. So let's say, you know, I don't know what you're selling or what your services are, but let's say that you're selling, I don't know, merchant processing or something, and you're calling companies to try to switch them to your credit card services. Okay. So the way you'd start that call off with, yeah, hi, is John there? And the gatekeeper says, yeah, who is this? Oh, I'm sorry. This is just Jeremy. I was wondering if you could possibly help me out for a moment. Yeah, sure. How can I help you? Well, I'm not quite sure you could yet. I called to see if your company would be open to looking at any possible hidden gaps in your processing that you're using that could be causing you to overpay your vendors. Okay. Notice how much different that is. I'm calling. I'm not, when they say, yeah, how can we help you? I'm not quite sure you could yet. That shows you're detached because you don't know if you can help them yet. You're asking. I called to see if your company or if you would be open to looking at any possible hidden gaps in your blank that could be causing you to blank. Problem. And when you focus on problems, people will get curious. So the problem statement causes them to be curious and to want to engage. And then they're usually going to say, well, okay, how do you do that? Or who's this again? Or what do you do? And then you're going to go into what's called your personalized introduction, which we train you on how to craft a personalized introduction for what you sell when somebody asks you, what do you do for a living? Because typically, probably, what do you say if somebody says, what do you do for a living? Well, I do this, X, Y, Z, blah, blah, blah. I'm a coach and I help people change their lives. Well, what does that mean to most people? It really means nothing. They've heard that from 100 other people that say the same thing. It doesn't separate you. So you're going to tell them how what you do helps other people. So that's called a personalized intro that we train you on in Module 3 of the NEPQ sales system. All right. So hopefully that answers your question. Lanny says we have 32 people in the NEPQ system for New Zealand. So hopefully that answered your question, Melanie. I'm sure we have hundreds in some of our other programs, but our flagship product, NEPQ, like Lanny said, he looked it up, 32 people. Okay, so what other questions we have, guys? I've got about 5 more minutes that I can answer questions. Christy, any last questions you have for me before I have to jump off here? Christy, any questions you have for me? Looks like we have 12 people left here. We've had 18 people enroll in the NEPQ system, so congratulations on who you are. I don't know how many people we had on this webinar, but I will tell you, the 18 people that just enrolled, your financial life is about to change because once you learn these persuasion and communication skills, you'll be able to communicate, be able to persuade, convince, really to help people. You're doing that to solve problems. If we don't learn how to persuade, how to communicate our message, then we can't help people solve their problems. Problem solving only comes if we learn how to communicate. All right, so Christy, if you've got any last questions for me, let me know. Just got a few minutes here. Hey, Christy. Can't hear you now.
Oh,
there you go.
See me and hear me?
I can see you now.
Great. I don't have any other questions.
Okay. Hey, everybody, I really enjoyed the time. Christy, thanks for inviting me to be here with your group. I love doing some of these webinar trainings and classes that we do, and I hope it gave your people that you work with in your coaching system some good value, some things that they can think about, and really helps them, give them hope like, hey, the reason why I've been struggling is I just need to change the way I communicate. I need to learn, communicate these type of communication skills so I can find and help more people change their lives. Because once you learn these type of communication skills, you are going to change hundreds of people's lives. I will tell you that for sure.
Well, I appreciate you being here because, like you said, the old model doesn't work. And those that are coaches, for example, and I see that happens a lot with people I train, is they don't want to be salesy. And the whole aspect of sales turns them off because they've been sold to before and it doesn't feel good. And yet there's a way to offer your products and services. You know, someone was mentioning in the chat again about having resistance, about even making money, and about, you know, being a salesperson. And it's like, but if you don't offer your services, if nobody you could be the best coach in the world and have the most gift to shift someone and transform their life, or write the best book, but nobody knows about it because you're not willing to offer your products or services, then you're not helping anybody.
You can't help anybody.
You're not causing any change. You're not transforming their lives because of your shortcoming of feeling bad about offering something. It's, you know, it's a disservice when you don't offer your products or service. And I want to leave with this. I want to, because this is important. Lisa Nichols is a good friend of mine, and we were doing a training together, and she was saying we had some objections from coaches that were in there that they don't feel comfortable selling. They don't feel comfortable offering their coaching services and things. And Lisa said something that was so brilliant and so amazing. She said that when she first started off and she was on stages with a lot of, you know, other self-help, personal development, transformational leaders, you know, they'd be making offers for products or services. And she came from the place of, I am just here to serve. I am not, you know, like totally like indignant. I am not going to offer products and services. I'm just here to serve in the best way I can, coming from that place. And after she did this amazing talk, this woman came up to her and said, what are you selling? What product or service do you have? And she said, oh, I'm not, you know, all proud of it. I'm not selling anything. And the woman says, do you mean to tell me you just sat there for 45 minutes getting me inspired, moving me to my core. And now I have absolutely no way to move forward with this. I have no way to continue working with you. I have no way. What do I do with this now?
Right.
And she goes, thanks. And she like shook her head and was like, thanks a lot. And she turned and walked away from Lisa.
Yeah.
And she just totally changed her perspective, because it is a disservice if what you have, the gift that you offer, that God-given divine gift that you have, it does nobody any good if you are not willing to market your product and your services.
Yeah, and why are people so afraid of approaching people that way? Because of the way they've been taught how to communicate. The old model makes most people feel like your skin's crawling, like you're uncomfortable. So when you learn NEPQ, you're going to feel good about what you're doing. It's an open conversation. We're going to train you how to become problem finders and problem solvers. You have to learn skilled questions to find problems with people, because if you can't find their problems, if they can't find them themselves by your questions, then it's impossible to solve any problems that they have. And that's what you're going to learn.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jeremy. I really appreciate you being here and all of your wisdom and all of your information. And I hope that, all those people that move along with you, that they start seeing their businesses just explode. And those that, for whatever reason, aren't, that they got a lot of value out of today. So
yes, 100%. That's why I came here for sure. All right. Great. And somebody says, can't see your support email. It's support at 7th level. So it's the number 7, not the words. It's the number 7. I've typed it in here a few times. Support at 7th, the number 7, TH level communications.com. Christy, thank you so much. I've got to get out of here. I got to go run and grab my kids.
Okay.
I will see you soon. Thank you.
Later.
Thank you, Lanny. Thanks everybody for being on.
Bye, everyone.